Hello juniors, and welcome back to Computer Systems and Programming. For this video, we're going to be going over input, the input function, and how we actually used it in Python. So you should have watched the little concept video that goes over conceptually what this is and how we use it. And now we're going to be actually going through the syntax of how we do it. So we're going to open the clips. I have mine open, and you're going to make a new project called input. So go File, New, File, New, PyDev project. You're going to name it input, and it's not going to let me do it because I already have a project, but you'll make sure that your configure is all done, and you'll click finish. Then you should have an input project folder pop up, and you're going to download the input outline.py. So off canvas, there's the input outline.py, and you can follow along on that py module as I go through this lesson. And I'm going to do this on a different .py. So I'm going to name it input practice.py. Oops. So first, let's talk about the structure of input. It's relatively simple. All it is you put a variable, so user response, and so we're creating this variable. We have one equal sign, and we're setting it to this input function, and inside of here we put a prompt. So this could also be a variable, but you just put text to user. So this is the general structure, and there should be normally, if I were to run this, run as, Python run, it'll throw this error because text to user doesn't exist. So if I make this variable text to user equals question, or actually let's just put in a question. What is your favorite color? Question mark. And now if we run this, it prints this out, and it gives us the opportunity to respond to it. So purple. And then you click enter, and then the program is terminated because that's all it does. So you can either have this variable in here, or you can totally just write the question in here on its own. So what is your favorite animal? And so now what's going to happen is when we run this, first it's going to ask me what my favorite color is because it prints this out and it's waiting for a response. So it waits until I click enter, so I type my response, and then now it can move on to the next line of code where it prints out what is your favorite animal, and now it's waiting for a response. And now once it got its response, it stored that response in user response and then terminated the program. So the structure is very simple. We put a variable, set it to input, and in the parentheses we put the text that we want to send to the user. So this function kind of works like a print statement, but then it also pauses and allows the user to type text into the console. Once the user types and clicks enter, the program stores whatever they typed. So I typed purple, and it stores it in user response. So we kind of went through a couple of examples, but let's just do one more just to have it. So let's do just response so that we have this in a different variable, and let's get who is your best friend? And then we can, let's just print this response out once we're done. Response. So now let's run this program. So first we'll do our favorite color, then let's do our favorite animal, and then who's my best friend? I'm going to say myself. And then it collects that response, stores it in there, and then prints it out. So that's all you really need to understand for the syntax of it. Again, it's just a variable, the input function, which We'll talk more about functions later, but this is just one function that we can use, kind of like the print is one function. This is a different function. And then you put whatever you want your question to be inside of there. Note that it doesn't have to be a question, it just has to be a string of text. So it can be literally just any text. It doesn't have to be anything specific. And now it's waiting for a response. But it's normally smart to add some sort of question or something, or give guidance to what they're supposed to type in. All right, so let's talk a little bit about errors. So remember, an error is a bug or something that went wrong in the program. There are two types of errors. There are syntax errors, which are there are problems with the program's syntax, or logical errors, which means that there's problems with the program's logic. So the syntax for this is a variable, the input function, and then the question. So if we mess up one of those pieces, that's where a syntax error will come. So one of the problems could be misspelling the input, so forgetting the last parentheses, forgetting a quotation in there, because then it thinks that this is a part of it. Misspelling input, or also you could have like missing the equal sign. Or you could have something wrong in spelling the variable. For common logical errors, one logical error that you could have is you forget to put your question. So you have your input, but you don't tell the user to type anything or give any inclination of what they're supposed to do. So nothing really prints out and they don't know what to do. I'm going to undo that. Another error is that you might be missing response. You might be missing the variable. You just put this, and now you can see this variable doesn't exist. So if I try to run this, we won't store the user's input, whatever they say. So we always have to have this variable in front of there, to make sure that our input is actually stored and that we can use that later on in the program. So that's all that you need to understand about errors. Remember, syntax, logical. For syntax, it's messing up like typing something, so missing a parentheses, misspelling input. For logical, it is either missing the question, so it's a logic error. It's something that doesn't logically make sense. So you forget to ask the user a question, you forget to store the input in something. Those are logical errors. So now all you have to do is go back to the input module. You're going to go on, make sure you finish this input outline and submit it on this activity prompt. It should just be simple questions of what we went through together in this video. Then do your input drills and submit them in the activity prompt here. And then do your debug drills and submit them here. If you need extra help or want to see some examples of any of this stuff, you can go to the input exercises, look at the program manual, which goes through this in more depth, or you can go to W3 Schools and they have a little module about input as well. Once you do all that, you're done for the input section and you're ready to move on to the next unit. All right, juniors, I will see you later.